I finally got a haircut. I can see. It does get a little difficult to see after a while. But anyway, last night I was training somebody again. And they always give me the follow ones, people who it's their first day. I haven't quite figured out why, but you know, it is what it is. Dillon gets the newbies, the fresh ones. So, my trainee's name was Jenna. It's her first day, of course, and this is her first serving job. She worked at some other place before where they did serve food and drinks, but not in the way we do. Anyway, when I walk in, it is dead. There is not a single person in the restaurant. I made a joke to my manager. I'm like, hey, did you unlock the front door? What's going on here? And we were talking about how slow it was, and we get on the floor. My manager hands me the training pamphlet, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess we'll go through this because there's nothing for me to really train you on at the moment because we don't have any tables. And I don't know when we're gonna get a table, honestly. It's Monday, I don't really know what to expect. So we're going through the pamphlet, and I'm like, you know what, do you know where everything is? Let's get you a tour, you know? Make sure you're acquainted with the space. And then we get back from our tour, we got a table. Cool, finally, about time. It's been like 40 minutes. So I just have her watch me for the first time, and then we get an 8-top. And I'm like, all right, I know you might be a little nervous to do this, so just watch me on this one as well, and then you'll get the next table. And then, after I have her make the 8-tops drinks. After we get out there, we have gotten triple sat. So I'm like, hey, you seem to have pretty good experience with that cocktail tray. Go pass out those drinks. I am going to grab the steering wheel real quick. I'm gonna get us through this, okay? Long story short, this ended up being one of the busiest Monday nights that I have ever worked. You know, this poor girl came in, started on her first day on a Monday, you know, probably expecting a chill shift. I was too. And then boom, we come out, my section's full. Triple sat. If you're a server, your heart probably sank a little bit when I said triple sat. I had a 5-table section. We had already kind of taken care of the other 2, but now shit is getting serious, you know? And I am not the only one that's busy. Everybody in the restaurant is weeded. I mean, it was like a war zone. Nobody was ready for this. You know, our shift lead was busy. She was like in the back by herself. We had this new server. He finally had a 4-table section, and well, unbeknownst to him as well, we did not know it was going to be one of the busiest Monday nights that we have ever worked. So I walk fast. When I'm busy at work, I probably got a walking speed of close to like 4 miles an hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's your first day and the person who's training you is walking like this, it can be a little difficult to keep up, you know? So the whole time, I turn a corner and I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. I'm like, hold my hand, get down. There's like limes flying everywhere. We need ice, we're out of cups. Nobody's running food because we're all so busy. Poor Lily, she's screaming for runners, and I have a trainee. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? So I mean, midway through the shift, I kind of got my trainee acquainted enough to kind of start handling the section on her own, where you're kind of doing it together. It got to a point where I didn't even have time to introduce both of us. You know, it was literally just 2 servers in the section. Like, my tables were probably confused because Jenna would take their order, get their drinks, and then they'd be ready to pay, and I'd show up, and I'd be like, hey guys, you know, need anything? And, you know, they're like, huh? Because, like, we were so busy, I didn't have time to explain that I was training some of my tables. So to them, they just had 2 servers. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. Honestly, neither did we. We were like, where'd these people come from? So we're going through the night. We're going through the night. I'm like, here, take this check to this table. I just started giving her side quests. I'm like, here, you take this. I gotta go get ice. They need help on Expo. I gotta go do this. Cause not only am I trying to keep my trainee afloat, but I'm the person who I'm trying to keep the rest of the restaurant afloat too. So if I see a skillet dying, I'm like, okay, we gotta run that. Even when we weren't busy, it was still a war zone, man, because everybody else was busy. We had 3 trainees on the floor. My coworker Preston, for some reason, he had a 7-table section. Well, not for some reason. It was Monday. We weren't expecting it to be busy, so he got 7 tables. And he also had a trainee, and it was also her first day. So I had a 5-table section that was going nuts. I can't even imagine what he was going through. So I'm like, all right, Jenna, come here. Preston has 2 extra tables than us. So if you think what we're going through is bad, then imagine what they feel like. So we're gonna run their drinks, all right? My trainee didn't know table numbers either. I'm like, run this tray to 501. She's like, where's that? And I'm like, just follow me, let's go. And she doesn't have a lot of experience with a food tray. So in the moment, I was like, all right, let me see it. And I took off. But we eventually slowed down a bit to where I could show her how to properly carry the tray. But man, in the meantime, it was nuts. We got sat with another big top, and you know, a lot of shit's going on. This table needs to pay. This table also needs to pay. This table, I gotta go take their order, and this guy's still waiting on his bar drink. So I told her, I'm like, hey, you got this. You're 3 hours in. You've greeted a couple tables. Go greet this big top. It wasn't even a big top. It was like 6 people. And she's like, all right, which table? I'm like, that one. Over there by the weird brick wall. And I point to it. And I thought she knew which table I was talking about. However, I guess I should have verified, because as I'm refilling another table's unsweet tea, I look over and she's greeting somebody else's table. And I'm like, so I'm like, thank Dillon, what do I do? So I go over there and I see that the table already had coasters on it. So I already knew that the other server had already been there. I'm like, hey guys, have you guys already been taken care of? And they're like, yeah. So I take my trainee, I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, yeah, so it's this table. And she's like, oh my God. Because apparently that was the second table she had greeted before I finally came over there. So I guess I should have wrote that on the back of the pamphlet. I'm supposed to fill out like what she needs work on. I probably should have put table numbers, but you know, it was so busy that it slipped my mind. It only happened one time, but that was a new experience for me. To look over and my trainee was in another server section and I was like, shit. You know, I finally get her to the right table and I'm like, all right, since I'm already here, I'll stand with you while you greet this table. And she does a good job. And we finally start getting to the point where we can breathe a little bit. You know, the rest of our section is paid out. We really just have this little 6-top. But everybody else in the restaurant, they're still busy. There's still limes flying everywhere like they're grenades. I'm like, get down, Doug. This girl dropped a Charo cup and I went to grab it and I cut myself. And I was like, all right, I gotta go see the field medic. So I left my trainee to watch my section. I'm like, you got this, you're good. But long story short, things can change quick. I mean, when I walked in, the only thing in my section was tumbleweeds. It was empty. There's freaking cobwebs. And then out of nowhere, an influx of people just showed up. And we were the busiest restaurant in town. But that's all I got for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow, all right?